But is that causing a delay? Is that the reason why we have so much delay? Because there's so much power with the legislature?
No, that's not the reason. The delay that we have, I mean, it's as a result of different things. Of course, the timing of the presentation of the budget. Now the acting president has told us that the budget will be presented in October or so. The last budget and the current budget was presented in December. So if the timing of presentation is much earlier, that will help the speed of the passage of the budget. Then the quality of what is presented. Sometimes the bill is presented to the National Assembly, and before you know it, there are gaps here and there. We have seen instances where ministers have come to the National Assembly and disowned the budget. We have seen instances where I think it was the Minister of Works, Housing and Power that said there was a provision of about 2 billion in the budget which was not to his knowledge. So there's also the issue of capacity at the level of the executive in the preparation of the budget. If you prepare a very tight document, that will also allow for a very speedy passage.
Now, this one is seen as a tight budget because it's primarily focuses on economic recovery and growth and trying to get the economy out of a recession. And these projects that has been mentioned inside the budget, the Mambila Power Project, the Standard Gauge Project, the Niger Bridge, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, are these projects that can help to get this country out of recession?
Yes, they are very vital projects. They are very fundamental to improving productivity and improving the efficiency, transportation, and all of that. Because one of the biggest issues we have with the economy today is infrastructure. And the good thing about the budget is that there's a lot of focus on infrastructure. And some of these projects which has been allegedly tampered with are infrastructure projects which are critical to aiding the recovery of the economy. So they are very important. But having said that, the budget itself is not enough to get the economy completely out of recession.
Why?
Because if you look at the size of the budget, vis-a-vis the challenges in the economy, it's just a token. The budget to GDP ratio in Nigeria is just about 6 or 7%. In many other African countries, it's over 20%. In the more advanced economies, it's over 40%, sometimes 50%. So the budget size is not enough to make the right kind of impact that we have the kind of changes or meet the kind of expectations that we have.
Well, one of which...
So that is why it is important, apart from talking about budget, we should talk about policy. Because it is policy that can bring private sector capital to the table.
And the private sector is responsible, is the machine and the engine room that can get us out of this recession.
Exactly. Because private sector capital can deliver multiples of what the budget is delivering. In terms of the value, in terms of the financing that we need to actually transform the economy.
Let me butt in here. One of the major challenges that we've had year in, year out, I mean, this is June already, is that of implementation. What do you think will come out of the implementation of the 2017 budget?
Well, I'm optimistic that it will be well implemented, having regard to the clause already in the Appropriation Act, which says that the budget implementation year begins at the time when the budget is assented to by the President. So that means we start counting the implementation year from June. So it will still run its 12-month cycle.
That will be by June next year?
Yes.
And then you're expecting that by sometimes in December, the 2018 budget will also be running concurrently with it?
We may have such a situation. It can be running concurrently.
Tell us, what is the implication of that?
Well, the implication of that is that first, it creates an efficiency challenge. It creates an optimization challenge. Because if you have two budgets running concurrently, I mean, that will bring some form of complications. But the acting president has said that they are committed, the government and possibly the National Assembly are committed to ensuring a return to the January-December cycle. So I take this as a transitional challenge, as a transitional problem. If we have the executive and the legislature working in tandem, I'm sure they'll be able to bring us back to normality in terms of timing, which is bringing us back to the January-December budget cycle.
What we have now, looking at the 2016 figures, just about 60%, just over 60% implementation success. What are you expecting for the 2017 budget? Are we looking at perhaps 85%?
Well, it's a function of a number of variables. You know, the budget is based on estimates. Estimates with regard to revenue, estimates with regard to expenditure, particularly revenue, because you can't spend what you don't have. Now you already have the budget assumptions with regard to oil price, which was fixed at 44.5. We know what is happening now in the global oil market. We are already below $50 per barrel. We are currently at slightly over $47 per barrel. And anything can happen. So if these assumptions begin to collapse, it will affect implementation, clearly. Just as we had in the last budget, there were shortfalls in targets of revenue with regard to independent revenue. There were serious shortfalls with regard to customs revenue because of the fiscal policies and all other issues that we had in the economy. So these things depend principally on how these assumptions stand. We also have assumptions with regard to the oil output. The assumption in the budget is 2.2 million barrels per day. We hope that the current peace and and stability that we have in the Niger Delta will also be sustained to ensure that that remains. If anything happens to output, it will also affect implementation. Then there is also the issue of capacity to implement the budget. There is also the issue of the bureaucracy in awarding contracts, in implementing contracts, and processing the funds for the contractors and all those things. So all those things will also contribute to the speed with which the budget can be implemented.
I'll take that as your final words on the very important discussion on the way forward for the budget 2017. Many thanks indeed. Muda Yusuf is the Director General, LCCI, that's the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. When we return, we'll be looking at the many angles of combating kidnapping crime. Kidnap kingpin Chukwudi Onwamadike, aka Evans, is arrested. Join us again.